right, girl want buy.
This is today's religious talk, and this episode is about the Toronto Carribean Carnival, affectionately known as Caribana. Caribana is a Caribbean festival held every summer in the city of Toronto, with millions in attendance. This is North America's largest festival. It's also the largest grossing event as far as revenue brought into the city through tourism. Caribana is a multi-week festival that leads up to a parade in the first week of August. This festival consists of bands, costume dancers called mass players, and live Caribbean music. You can expect to hear the sounds of calypso, chutney, dancehall, and reggae music. The Toronto Caribbean Carnival is considered a Black cultural event, but it didn't start out that way. Now, the word carnival derives from the Latin carnem levar, which means the removal of meat, because of its association with Lent. Yes, a lot of people may not know this, but carnival has a close association with Christianity. As a matter of fact, carnival dates all the way back to the Roman Catholic Church. Some sources say carnival can be traced even further back to the Roman pagan festival called Saturnalia, which was in honor of the god Saturn, the father of Jupiter. Saturn was known as the Lord of the Harvest because he deals with cycles. This celebration marked the end of one season and the beginning of another. It was actually Pope Paul III that reintroduced carnival celebrations in Rome in the 16th century. He incorporated elements from the pagan mythology and turned it into a Catholic celebration. So, in Catholicism, carnival marked the period of time that preceded the 40-day period of fasting that is known as Lent. So this was a time of celebration and festivity. It provided a release for the people, a chance for them to unwind and de-stress. But it also served a political agenda as well. This 6-week festival helped to pacify the tensions that existed between the poor class towards the ruling class and the political system. So this event was used as a distraction to make the poorer class forget about their social position. So this is where the concept of masks came in. The masks were used to erase social hierarchy between the common people and the aristocracy. The wearing of masks were incorporated in this event to provide a temporary feeling of equality between the poorer class and the ruling class. This was a strategy to provide people with a false sense of inclusion. And this is the reason why masks are worn today in the Caribbean Carnival Festival. This is referred to as playing mass. But how did this once European event turn into a Black cultural festival? Well, the history runs deep. The French brought this tradition to the islands. It was the French plantation owners that started the mass tradition in the late 18th century. They were the ones that organized masquerades and balls before Lent. The enslaved Africans were not allowed to participate. They weren't invited to these parties. They were excluded from these carnival celebrations. So what happened? The slaves decided to make their own parties to rival their slave masters. On the island of Trinidad and Tobago, they formed a parallel celebration that was called Canboulay. This became the precursor to the Trinidad and Tobago Carnival. Enslaved Africans used this celebration to mock their slave masters who excluded them from the carnival parties. They incorporated elements from their own African tradition using their own rituals and their own folklore. So for them, carnival meant something different. It was a time when slaves took a break from the hardship of slavery to celebrate their African culture, something developed by Afro-Trinidadians at the time. But unfortunately, it's not marketed that way today. Carnival has become nothing more than a festival of drunken revelry, with no remembrance of the past suffering of our ancestors. The same way the children of Israel celebrated by worshiping the golden calf and forgot about their harsh bondage as slaves in Egypt, Carnival is focused on that same golden calf today, which is money. This is just a money-driven festival with no acknowledgement of the hardships endured by our ancestors. We've lost the true spirit of what this event is about. Colorful costumes, loud music, and a party atmosphere is all there is to offer. But what about the resilience of the slaves and their commitment to joy and happiness despite oppression? What about teaching the younger generation about the people they came from and what they had to go through? Why isn't there any museums showcasing this history? Why are we not reinforcing the youth with education about this particular time period? We've done a disservice to our ancestors. What about the African spiritual systems utilized by our ancestors that were incorporated into this festival? Why is there no attention given to this? How can you be proud of Caribana and ashamed of Voodoo? These celebrations were a chance for slaves to restore their dignity, regain a sense of humanity, and practice their cultural traditions. This was an opportunity for them to experience community and mutual joy instead of mutual suffering. And speaking of suffering, the Black community is still suffering today, which begs the question, where does all that money go? All that money generated by Caribana, and we still got the same problems? Lest I remind you, we still have a significant crime problem in the city. And Blacks are significantly overrepresented in the criminal justice system, second only to Indigenous people. Hardly something to sing and dance about. So count me out. Count me out. I don't want to jump up and down and get heat stroke in the sun. Neither do I want to sing and dance, because there's not really much to sing and dance about. Not while anti-Black racism persists. Not while there is anti-Black bias, evidenced by the Ontario Human Rights Commission's interim report. So forgive me, but to hell with Caribana. I'm not interested. Sorry, but not sorry. Because how can the same cultural group that generates millions for the city be the same group that is the most criminalized? And they say the equation poverty equals crime. So share some of that money. Then maybe we can eliminate the crime. That's a no-brainer. Doesn't that make sense? But there's something called the necessity of evil. And I'm not going to elaborate on that right now. I'll save that for another time. But back to my original question, where does the money go? Certainly not to help underserved communities. Certainly not to help at-risk youth. The money isn't helping the people of the community. So let me make my intentions clear. I'm not trying to kill the vibe. I'm trying to ruin the party until the profits help the people.